Recording in progress.
Going live. I'd like to call the October 6th regular session meeting of the Township of Long Hill to order at 7:34. Megan, would you please read the statement of presiding officer?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held on the orders listed on the meeting agenda.
All right. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Megan, would you kindly take roll?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Here.
Committeeman Lavender?
Present.
Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Present.
Mayor Pursuant?
Present. So for those following at home, item number 4, ordinance 482-21, first reading, introduction concerning the police department and amending chapter 2 of the Township Code entitled Administration. Jack, would you kindly give us a summary of what we're doing here?
Sure. Under state law, the police chief reports to the appropriate authority. It's up to the Township Committee to designate the appropriate authority, and it's a pretty broad category. In any event, under our ordinance, the Township Committee is designated as the appropriate authority. In the next section, it provides that the chief shall report through the administrator. And in my opinion, that's probably contrary to the state law. The town can certainly change the appropriate authority to make it the administrator, but in the meantime, I think we need to clarify it to make it positive that the appropriate authority is the one that the chief reports to.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the members of the Township Committee?
Yeah, I don't see the need for this. I mean, clearly there's a personality conflict, we all agree. And it's not good practice to legislate or make rules because one or two people can't get along. So it's been, whatever that, maybe there is a contradiction. I didn't read it, but I agree with Jack. If there's says two different things in this ordinance, it has to be clarified. On the other hand, probably most towns have the chief report to the administrator. I can't say I haven't done a survey, but I assume that's how things work. Just because the two people can't get along doesn't mean we have to change the entire structure of how things have been going here for, whatever, 70 years. I mean, at some point, the administrator's gonna be gone, and the chief's gonna be gone. There's gonna be two new people sitting in those chairs. So to me, it's not who's in the chair, it's the position itself. And if they're reporting to the township committee, if the chief is, then who's responsible for everything else the township committee that they do? That means that the administrator wouldn't have to do anything else? I mean, I don't think we have the time to deal with the police department on a daily basis with all their needs and whatever else they need. And that's not fair to the police department either, that they have to wait to find one of us when we have full-time employees sitting at town hall to do these things. So that's my reservation to it, is I just don't think that legislation should be done for one personality issues and/or two for one or two people. I mean, we had the issue with the fire chief a couple of years ago, or both chiefs, more Sterling than Millington. We wanted to try to do something then. And when I had a sit-down with some members of the Lower Sterling Committee, they basically said, hey, why would you legislate for one person? And they're right. Whether it's one or two, you can't make rules for one or two people who are short-term. This is a short-term solution that's going to have long-term consequences. So my suggestion is tell them to figure it out themselves. And I don't feel like I wouldn't vote to change how we do things. Yeah, we have to clarify it, but I wouldn't have the chief, I don't care who the chief is or who the administrator is, that should be the chain that goes on, because we hire an administrator to run the town. And all the other departments are under the administrator, and like I said, it's not a person, it's like in the Army. It's the rank, not the person. So, to me, it's a hierarchy, and it's been working that way until recently, and I don't think we should change anything. That's what I'm saying on it.
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Jack, can you, the section where it says Section 214.3 violates the clear language of NJSA, can you just elaborate on that, give us more color on that?
Yeah, NJSA 48:14-118 it's commonly referred to as the Police Chief Bill of Rights. And in essence, it says that the chief is responsible for the day-to-day management of the police department, and he shall report directly to the appropriate authority for the efficiency and routine day-to-day operations thereof. So I read that to say that since the Township Committee is the appropriate authority, that's who the chief reports to. As I said earlier, the Township Committee could, in fact, name the administrator as the appropriate authority, in which case the chief would report to the administrator. I don't know the breakdown. I know in Bernardsville, they changed theirs several years ago from the council to the administrator as the appropriate authority. But the way it's structured now, I think you need to change one or the other. Either make the administrator the appropriate authority or take out that section that the chief reports to the administrator.
But does that section that the chief should report to the administrator, is it a conflict with the law?
I think it's a conflict with the law because, as I said, the Police Chief Bill of Rights, NJSA 48:14-118, says he shall report to the appropriate authority. And in our case, the appropriate authority is the Township Committee. Correct.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But if I heard you correctly, the Township Committee can designate
That's
the
correct.
administrator as the appropriate authority.
That's right.
But it can't be written the way we currently have it written.
That's correct. It's inconsistent the way it is.
Yeah, I understand the inconsistency. That part has to be clarified. I have to agree with you there, one way or another. Now, the second question, Jack, since you've been here, you've been here longer than all of us. Has it pretty much been the police chief, whoever it may be, reports to the administrator, whoever it may be?
You know, I'm not sure that how it worked on a day-to-day. You know, I think some chiefs were more independent than others. You know, I really can't.
Well, it raises the concern, let's say, for example, the police department needs something. And let's say, I don't know, the mayor's on vacation, obviously Brendan would be conflicted out, or I'm not around, who makes these decisions? Like, if they need something quickly done, I don't have access to that stuff, or, like, for example, if they need to contact somebody that the administrator deals with every day, or the CFO, that's not something I think, we have somebody at the town hall, full-time employee, that deals with these things. So if the police department needs something, they can get it done quicker. But if they have to wait for one of us, and like I said, right now, the committee's fairly police department friendly. But if you get somebody, a committee that's not police department friendly, then the chief's screwed. And vice versa. In other towns, I know where my friends work, they have some towns where the mayor tells the chief, I want this person on this detail, I want this person here, I want this person promoted, and they kind of have to do it. And I don't think the police department wants that either.
No, in fact, that's contrary to the law.
I
clearly.
know it's contrary to the law, but I'm saying it happens.
Because under the Police Chief Bill of Rights, the chief is the one responsible
I
for the
absolutely
day-to-day
agree.
management.
However, they are strongly urged to do certain things, and And I'm not saying it's done here, because it's not. The chief, obviously, they determine their own schedule, who works and where they work.
Right.
But in other places, that can happen.
But-
And that could, then the police don't get hijacked too, which I know they don't want. Not that
There's
I'm telling
nothing
you
to
do that.
there's nothing to prevent the administrator and chief from working together, or the chief approaching the administrator to get things done. As I say, it's just this reporting section, reporting on the, I want to get the language right, the day-to-day operations of
Would
the
it-
police department to the township committee as the appropriate authority.
Go ahead, Vic.
The way that we essentially have it written in now, the police, again, this is my understanding of how it is. The police chief is only supposed to answer, according to the Bill of Rights, to the Township Committee. Now, what I don't understand is how could, in essence, the township administrator in any town I'm not talking long, be the boss of the chief, which is essentially, when you're saying answers to, that the township that the township administrator would be the chief's boss. And I think that's directly against what the Police Bill of Rights is saying. So I don't think, no matter what we say, I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, the section allowing the designation of appropriate authority is very broad. It allows you to name almost anyone. But I think the important language in the statute is shall be directly responsible to the appropriate authority. You know, and I emphasize directly. I think that's the issue here.
But then what happens if Al comes to us and say, I don't want to report to Nancy or the administrator anymore? Or Lee says, I don't want to report to the administrator anymore. Then what do we do?
The big difference is there's no public works manager Bill of Rights.
All right. But then basically you're saying that all these towns that have the police reporting to the administrator, they're in violation of law. I just can't see that. 'cause
No,
there's been
no,
litigation by it.
no, I didn't say that.
I
What-
said
what
my
What I
interpretation.
said is you can, and in fact, like I said, Burnersville, the administrator is named as the appropriate
Okay.
authority.
So basically it's we can designate anybody in reality.
Right. Now, the appropriate authority actually adopts the resolution, or the rules and regulations. You know, when the chief submits the rules and regulations, they're approved by the township committee here because you're the appropriate authority. If you name the administrator or any other township person as the appropriate authority, they actually approve the rules and regulations, and then the chief has to live within those rules and regulations, which is the main function, I think, of the appropriate authority.
But the appropriate authority could, for functional reasons, simply say the administrator executes.
Well,
Or-
except, as I say, I think the language, he shall be directly responsible.
No, I guess I'm trying to circle back to what Matt said. Say the chief needs something done. Does he have to find Matt or whoever happens to be the mayor
We
at
need
the
a vote
time?
of 3 of us to get it done.
Yeah.
That's what I don't
I
understand.
think in the past, the township committee's kept itself as the appropriate authority for disciplinary hearings. That they felt they should be the ultimate person,
But for
the ultimate body
okay.
to make the determination as to whether somebody's suspended or terminated for a disciplinary reason.
Right, but to Matt's point, and the question is, if the chief needs something done, it could be anything, I don't know, pick something.
Oh, purchasing something. I don't need to send somebody, I don't know, anything. That's what I'm saying, needs something done
If
quickly
the
or
township
needs
committee is the appropriate authority, which it is,
documentation of something. I don't know.
how does that
But there's
get
nothing to
affected?
prevent the chief from going to the administrator and saying, I need, paperwork, and I need them now, from pursuing it that way.
So they don't have to find Matt or Guy or someone?
No, I mean, the appropriate authority doesn't have to approve every little thing.
But then who is approving stuff? That's the question.
Well, it could be the CFO or, the administrator. I mean, if the chief needs something,
But if there's like I said, a purchasing thing, or they need to make an application for something. Like for example, if Brenda, I don't know if you can discuss this.
I know, I was just
Well, he's
actually,
gotta
I was
recuse
actually,
himself.
I was
He has
actually
to
going to
ask-
ask
But for
Jack if I
example,
could ask a
let's say-
question.
He can ask-
That was it. I can ask a question? I mean, that was all I wanted to do.
Now, you can go, I'll finish up.
Well,
No.
Well, here's,
please.
let's say, for example, the chief wanted to send somebody to a training session, for example, and you need permission for it. Then he has to come to us and get permission, or he'd go to the administrator, whoever the designee was.
It still has to be approved here even now, regardless.
Well, yeah, I know that.
You approve every, and I don't think, I can't recall a training session that was gonna happen before the next township committee meeting.
No, but like, say something comes up, they need some approval, eventually we'd approve it, but if it needs to be approved immediately, we're not meeting. We're not meeting for 2 weeks. In the summer, it's once a month, so things aren't gonna get done as quickly. That's my concern as well.
I think, like, for a purchase of something, the chief should go to the CFO or the QPA and say, I need this immediately. And assuming it's below the bid threshold, you know, it shouldn't be an issue.
Well, the bid doesn't matter, that's the
Yeah.
issue.
But my question is.
Well, hopefully he's not gonna buy something
Jack, can I
more
see
than
any-
44,000. I think you should
Okay,
totally.
I'll keep
refuse it.
myself out of it then, okay.
You know, I can't imagine an instance where the chief is gonna wanna purchase something for $44,000 or more that has to be done before the next township committee meeting.
No, but if they, like I said, if they need something on a daily basis, for example, if they need an insurance certificate, for example, I'll just give you a wild example. My job to go find the insurance, if we pay somebody to call somebody up to get an insurance certificate, things like that.
Yeah, but there's nothing preventing the chief from calling the administration and saying, I need a copy of the insurance certificate. You know,
So it doesn't sound to me like the change in the language changes the way it can work and should work in, I guess, the way Matt's explaining it.
I have a question. Could the chief have a certain amount of autonomy to spend money like below a certain amount? Does he, like, in other words, if he wants paper clips or pens or something like that, can we trust him to buy, you know, with a
I think they
certain
do.
amount?
yeah,
They do.
I think the chief already has a petty cash account.
Yeah, they
don't he?
do. Of course, we don't pull the paper.
Like, in other words, if it's a minor, like, in other words, I know there was a whole big email chain for a minor purchase at some point. How do we avoid that? Does the chief have to go to the township administrator for everything he purchases?
No,
Or
and I
can
don't
we
think-
avoid that type of a thing in the future?
I don't think Al does either, if he's getting something.
For some
relatively
reason, that
modest in
did
cost.
happen.
Well, there's purchasing laws, so it doesn't matter
Right.
who,
That's right.
whatever department it is, it doesn't matter who it is. If Al wants to get something that's a certain amount of money, he's gotta go to the QPA or go through that process,
Right.
whether we like it or not, or he likes it or not. It depends on the threshold, not what it is. It's the amount of money it is.
Scott, I think you,
Yeah, and I'll direct this to Jack. So essentially, by way of this ordinance, we'd be changing the org chart
Right.
with the township committee at the top, and then the administrator and the police chief as peers.
Correct.
And
And I
so,
think that's the way state law is.
okay, but to answer Matt's concern, we can delegate authority as the situations dictate.
Yes.
So if we disappear for the summer, we can delegate the administrator to be in charge of the whole thing if we had to,
Or the police commissioner.
or for a period of time.
You know.
I mean,
I'm
it
trying
kind
to
of works
think
that
of-
way in every organization,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I'm trying to think of examples where the chief would have to go to either of you for authority to do something.
Right. Because we have processes in place which dictate how things happen.
Right, and most of
And
which
that's
is dictated by
independent,
state law.
that's
And
independent
this
of an org
doesn't-
chart.
and,
Correct.
and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry if I cut you off, Scott, it doesn't sound to me like we're circumventing that process.
As a practical matter, it shouldn't change the process a whole lot, I don't think. You know, I'm not involved in day-to-day of it, but it's,
So here's the question, what problem does this solve right now?
Personality conflict.
I think it solves
That's
the problem.
basically it.
During this whole thing, it was brought to my attention, that section was in there, and that it was inconsistent. You know, somebody asked, interpret this, they're inconsistent. And I said, well, it should be clarified.
I think ultimately what we're looking for here, does the chief does the chief of police answer on a answer to the, is the proper authority for the chief of police, the township committee or the township administrator?
Well,
And is that the crux of the issue
Yes.
here?
Can I even
Yes,
then
of course.
refine what you're saying? Who does the chief's performance review?
It would be the township committee.
Then we're the authority.
That's correct.
That's it.
But that's
That's
true
it.
already.
Well, I'm
In-
saying,
Nancy as
there's a-
well. We
but
do the
there's a-
administrators
if
as
we,
well.
if we
But there's a
do, if we do the performance review, then the chief reports to us.
That's correct.
And
What
I
else,
think-
what else is there? Enough said.
Right, but we're looking for clarification because there's an irregularity that needs to be changed.
Oh, I know there's an irregularity,
Right,
but
I
the
got it,
logic
okay.
of it says if the chief is dependent upon us for his performance review, he reports to us. We're the appropriate authority, so fix the language.
And you adopt the rules and regulations that govern the police department that the chief has to live under.
Correct.
And we do that each January at the reorg?
Yep.
Mhm.
It should be done each
All right.
January.
Any other comments, questions?
And the difference with the other department heads is not, only the chief has the chief bill of rights. You know, other
Who does the
departments don't have
who does the
autonomy.
performance review of the other departments?
I think the
Administrator.
administrator does.
Okay.
And we do the administrators.
Right.
All right.
That's-
Okay, so this is first reading. We won't open it up to the public. The public will have a chance to question or opine at the October 27th meeting, I would look for a motion to approve on first reading.
I move.
Vic?
Second.
Megan?
Committeeman Dorsey?
No?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Abstain.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Okay, for those following again at home, this is item number 5, consent agenda resolutions. These are resolutions numbers 21-255 through 21-261. Anybody need to abstain? Any that a member of the committee would like to pull for further discussion?
Yeah, the one with the, I'm gonna be the new Cornell today.
Nah.
Not improved, let's be
Yes,
clear.
I am for lighting though. The performance bond one, I just have some questions on that. What's that, 21-259 for starters. My issue is, I understand the jobs were done, but I'm not voting to return money to JTG Construction. That guy couldn't spell cat if I gave him the first 2 words, letters of the word. He already said to us that the company doesn't exist anymore. He couldn't answer a question, didn't even know where he was half the time, and he clearly said that company doesn't exist. So how can you return money to an entity that doesn't exist anymore? I have no problem giving the money back to everybody else, but there's no way I'm giving money to this guy considering he stood right there 2 weeks ago. Oh, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything.
I have no problem with pulling it out, because he hasn't asked for it, has he, Meg?
No, he is not.
So,
I guess
you know,
he's wealthy enough, he doesn't need.
it's amazing none of these contractors have come in and demanded their money, but it happens all the time.
How much is the performance bond in the specific example that Matt referenced?
Well, he has 3 outstanding. So he has the Mitchell Road drainage improvement, which his performance bond was $49,636. Carlton Road has a maintenance bond of $42,688. And, what was the last one? Oaks Road, he has a, maintenance bond that's, I believe 36,000, but that one's still, intact. So the other one is 362,000. That's the, Oaks Road improvement one.
But
The
those are not
performance.
cash bonds, they're surety bonds. So
Right, they're 100%.
Which one's a cash?
None of those are
None of them,
cash.
they're 100%
All right,
bonded.
so it's
They go
not
back to
real
the
money
bonding
to him.
company?
He's paying
Correct.
premiums, though.
That's fine, let him.
And
stay.
that's his issue.
But-
Okay,
But if he hasn't requested it, I have no objection to
so
pulling it out.
how to make the motion, or
Just
should,
revise that resolution to delete the JTG, is
Yeah.
that what it was?
Yeah,
JTG.
Yeah, all the other work
Thank
is
you.
done, right, Al, as
Yeah.
far as you know? Like the Mancy, all the other work on this was all done?
We have certifications, I
Yeah,
assume, from the
that's
township
fine.
engineer saying all
Right.
that's been.
I worked with the
Alright, so-
township engineer to clear all these up, and
Oh, okay.
he said that those were all able to be released.
JTG Construction,
3 of them.
JTG.
there's 3, okay.
Yep.
All right, so would somebody please, unless there's some other item on the consent agenda to poll or to discuss?
Well, the other issue with the repairs, which is 21-263, again, my.
We're not up to that yet.
Oh, we didn't get there yet.
No.
No, because that's going to be discussed outside of the
Oh,
consent.
all right, then that's fine.
Okay.
Stop to where, 262?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, no, that's a fine.
So Matt, if you don't mind, would you mind making the motion?
Sure.
Am I allowed to say that, to demand one particular committee member?
That's
Yes.
fine. I'll
But you're
make
the
a
one that
motion.
knows what we're
Yeah,
doing here.
To approve everything up to 261, short of removing the refunds to CAT, DOG, JTG Construction. 3 things that man cannot spell.
Jack, did that
That did it.
pass muster?
That did it.
All right, so looking for a motion, well, you made the
Matt,
motion, right,
yeah.
Matt?
Yes.
So looking for a second.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Now we'll go to a series of resolutions, starting with 21-262, appointing the township administrator as acting CFO in absence of CFO, in absence of our CFO, Randy Barr. For this meeting only, Jack, if I,
Yes, it's for this meeting only, and only for these resolutions that are on tonight's agenda, because state law requires that no contract can be authorized without a certification of available funds from the CFO, and since Randy is out of state on a family matter and can't be reached, Nancy has offered to certify the fund. She's familiar with them, and I think Randy will be back tomorrow, and he can certainly confirm the certifications.
First off, Nancy, thank you. Secondly, it's perfectly legal. Nancy can act as the acting CFO.
There's nothing specific in the law, but I think under the circumstances, she's the administrator, she's familiar with the budget.
Okay.
And, you know, like I said, Randy will be back tomorrow, and the funds are available. You know, it's not like we're pulling a fast one, and the funds aren't available. So I think under the circumstances, it makes perfect sense.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions or comments for Jack or Nancy, for that matter? Hearing none, look for a motion to approve 21-262.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. 21-263, resolution making emergency appropriation for repairs to the police station pursuant to NJSA 40A 4-48. Jack, did you want to discuss this at all, or, and certainly,
Nancy may want to.
Nancy, would you mind?
I'd be happy to, but I think she's better versed.
You can do it, Jack.
Okay. As you may recall, at the last meeting, the Township Committee authorized $350,000 toward the police emergency repairs from the Storm Recovery Fund. And that essentially depleted the funds in the Storm Recovery Fund. So we talked about then doing an emergency appropriation. The problem with the emergency appropriation is it's then added to next year's budget, and it would result in an automatic 4.6%, 4.7% tax increase for 2022. So Nancy and I talked about it, and then she and later I had a conference call with the auditor and bond counsel. And the suggestion was that we issue or adopt a bond ordinance to be introduced at the next meeting and adopted in November, which would take the money out of next year's budget. And it's misleading because all the bond ordinance does is appropriate the money. The Township Committee can decide not to ever borrow the money, not to ever issue bans or bonds. And hopefully by that time, we'll have received FEMA reimbursement funds, and the money will never have to be borrowed. You can pay it off with cash on hand, but like I said, it's a vehicle to appropriate the money without putting it in next year's budget and without resulting in a 4.6 tax increase from the get-go. That's not even counting any other tax increase there may be.
Thank you, Jack. Questions or comments from the committee? 21-263 only.
My comment's the same as I made last week. My concern is that, not that the project needs to be done, it absolutely does, and I agree it is an emergency. I'm not disputing any of that, it's the price of the project itself. I just think that the numbers are way out of line, and more than needs to be done. I think all this work can get done correctly for a lot less money, and that's my objection to it.
Understood.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. But, you know, just to clarify, we are in a time and materials scenario in this. So it can come in as less. So just for that clarification for the public.
So it's not a contractual
It's not a
obligation.
contractual, it's not a lump sum contract.
I still never got an answer from anybody. On the last thing of the proposal, it said general conditions, $20,000. I don't know what that means. Like, for example, I'm surprised Chuck wasn't jumping up and down, who's here today. But clearly it says certain items, hey, replace this, repair and replace this. I get that, there's a price. But it's, at least I know what they're doing for my money.
Yeah.
But general conditions, I don't know what that means. That could be lunch. I have no clue.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. There was a lack of specificity in that particular
And
line
there still
item.
hasn't been.
But, you know, anecdotally, just having worked on projects like this in the past, things come up, a tool gets broken, materials are needed, materials are accidentally wasted, you know, he's accounting for that and based on experience. But I agree with you, the lack of specificity there.
I think it's meant to be a contingency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opposed to-
But then what happens? We get that refunded if there is no problems?
There is no
Well,
refund
it's a-
because it's not charged.
He's got to submit vouchers.
He's got to submit
Specifying the
invoices.
work that's been done
And,
and the cost per line item of the work
Correct.
that's done.
yeah, I mean, I think the thing, Matt, is that that was a budget, so we may very well not pay as much as in there, as much. Those figures aren't cast in stone. They were just
Time and
budget
materials is billed based off an invoice, and the invoice has to be approved by line item before it's paid. And if there's a disagreement on that, we've got to work it out with them.
I'm not as familiar with time and material. I get the concept. Is it common to have a line item that lacks this the specifics as you described it?
Then you can't
Yeah.
pay it.
No, what my point is.
But
when
he's
you
not
get-
gonna, he's
when
not
you
gonna.
get a proposal.
You're not gonna accept an invoice from him for general
No,
conditions.
I appreciate that,
Right.
but let me put words in your mouth then.
Okay.
The proposal, which is time and material, to have a line item that's not full of specifics, it sounds to me like that's not uncommon. You
That's
would
true,
have a
yeah.
line item
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, like Jack said.
Because you can't
contingency.
pay it without an invoice.
You can't, yeah,
Right.
exactly. No one's gonna, here is gonna approve payment on a line item for something
So
that
it
doesn't
won't be
make sense.
lunch, Matt.
Well, I didn't say it was. I'm just saying it could be anything 'cause it's so general.
I know.
Obviously, they buy their own lunch, but I
We're
don't know what
not,
it means.
yeah, but we're not approving that line item this evening.
Right.
All this is doing is
Yeah.
appropriating the money to cover,
I'll just say personally, it doesn't bother me because I know the control on this contract is gonna be when we review the line items on the invoice prior to paying them, approving them. And if we contest something, we're gonna contest it, right? We're not gonna pay for pizza.
Well, no, but then who's seat? Do we review it? Does the
Yes.
administrator review it? Who's the appropriate
Well,
authority to
well,
review
the-
that?
the
That's what I'm trying to
administrator-
figure out.
Yeah.
the administrator will review it,
Mm-hmm.
CFO should review it, and then it comes to you for approval.
All right.
But I mean, it'll be reviewed as every other bill we get, right?
Yes.
By the appropriate people within
And
the
believe me, there's gonna be a
administration.
lot of scrutiny on this from all of us.
And I've never seen a lump sum contract that didn't have a change order.
Well,
And I never saw a lump sum contract that didn't have a lot of fluff over the top to cover contingencies. And an instance like that, that's hidden in the contract.
And then after that, you get change orders.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
things that were unanticipated, so.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve 21-263.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
I'm abstaining.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes?
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Pasurcia?
Yes. 21-264, I'll read it in full, amending Resolution 21-253, which authorized an emergency contract with Goldcon, Inc. for repairs to the police station by increasing the not-to-exceed amount from $350,000 to $438,000, and by changing the source of the funds from the Storm Recovery Trust Fund to an emergency appropriation. So questions or comments for Jack?
I'd like to say two things. One, to explain, last time you set the amount at $350,000, because that's all that was available in the Storm Recovery Fund, and we discussed at that time that it would be increased at this one. I'd also like to note for the record, this is contingent in the resolution upon their submitting a Public Works contractor registration, and that's state law, we don't have any choice.
Thank you, and I would add, if anybody who did watch last meeting, our CFO, Randy Barr, had concerns about what the money would be used for and whether it was appropriate, because some were emergency repairs, some perhaps were not. But that being said, any questions or comments? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve 21-264.
So moved.
Second?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Pasurcia?
Yes. I want to point out that Matt is really taking his role as the new Cornell seriously. Because when Cornell had, he hesitated, he would do it quietly and drag out the yes. never recognizing that yes is yes. What the record will show is yes.
Hey, you read the transcripts, a yes. It's all line drive and the blue box score. That's it.
But I do applaud his very good imitation of Cornell. Cornell, if you're watching, we love you, man. All right, 21-265, approving amendments 2018 through 2023 DPW contract. Jack, this is probably your wheelhouse, if you can explain what it is we're doing here.
We're doing several things here, Mayor. The main one is we're allowing for basically what amounts to a merit increase at the end of every year. The union has agreed to that. The Township Committee had previously agreed to it. It's also taking out all references to the sewer, the wastewater department, since it no longer exists, since we no longer own the sewer plant. There was one third thing. Let me look. Nancy probably knows off the top of her head. Oh, the probationary. We've eliminated the probationary pay scale so that new hires will start at step one. And I think it's because Al was having difficulty finding new employees because the probationary rate was so low. There'll still be probationary employees. It's just changing the bottom rate. Thanks, Al.
Questions, comments? Looking for a motion to approve 21-264.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Releza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Pasurcia?
And I think I misspoke. It's 265 for the record.
Right.
What we just voted on was 21-265. Do we have to do it again, Jack, or?
No, it's approving amendments to the DPW contract, so I think it was clear on the record.
Okay, thank you, Jack. 21-266, resolution appropriating $40,000 from the Storm Damage Trust Fund for emergency repairs to Meadowview Road. For those who don't live on Meadowview Road and it's not a heavily traveled road, we had serious damage to that road. I don't know, Matt, you drove down there?
No, I
I
slowed
did.
down. Brendan probably did.
All right,
did.
Brendan.
That's
can
an
you
important, that's
describe-
an important road to get to Millington School.
For the school,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're there, it actually is quite heavily trafficked,
Ah.
Yes.
surprisingly, from where it is. But yeah, there was a good deal of damage from the storm where the road had eroded, I think, reasonably significantly on one side, and the pipe underneath had washed out.
Because of the tributary that goes through there.
Yeah, and so these are, I'm very happy to see these repairs being made, and we discussed it with DPW Director Gallo, and he's happy with the repairs.
Yeah,
that
so
have
my
been made.
one question, Al, and maybe since you discussed it already, maybe you can speak to what Al said. I want to make sure that if we're going to do it, let's do it right, so we don't have to revisit this. Emergency repair sounds like you put a patch down. That's not what we're doing? Are we going to address the drainage issue, the
Yes.
road itself?
Yep. I mean, I should, maybe Al could.
Al, would you
Al could
mind?
speak. He could speak better than I can for him.
Well, it's a low bar, Brendan. Thank you, Chief.
No problem. So, yeah, this $40,000 will include the work that we talked about, Brendan, when we were on the site. The only really big change is the guardrail. Since that is a 25-mile-per-hour road, there's statute to place it with an actual guardrail, not a wooden guardrail that exists there now. Everything...
If I heard, I'm sorry, did you say, it's hard because of these
Yeah.
silly masks. Did you say that the guardrail will be replaced?
Correct. There's a wooden one there now. Since the
Perfect.
road is at 25 miles
I
an hour.
just don't want to revisit this, if we're going to do something, let's do it right.
Yeah, the only thing that was eliminated that me and Brendan talked about was adding some stone further up into the tributary. After speaking with Nancy and the contractor, we're trying to get it back to the original state in better condition than it was for the last 30 years. Because I think those head walls were put in by the DPW years ago, probably in the
okay.
60s. So I think $40,000 is a good number. I'll speak to Nancy tomorrow. I know, Jack, we were going back and forth on the tree. Is that included in this, or is it going to be separate for the tree removal along that?
I thought we should deal with the tree just through a voucher, rather than getting into subcontractor issues and all that.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Al.
And Al, just for clarification, the engineer actually, you guys offered to do it, but didn't the engineer say this is a job that's too big for you guys to do? I mean, you guys mean the DPW?
Yes, sir. My intention was to do it in-house, but where the pipe starts on the north end is very low, but where it drops off on the south end is deep. And I just don't have the equipment to reach that
All
and
right.
to do it properly.
And that, obviously, you got on this, you got a couple bids, didn't you?
Yes, 2 bids.
And the one that actually, the person that's doing is a local person, isn't he?
His company's based out of Kenilworth.
But he's a township resident?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and it gives the township resident some work, which is good, and you've worked with him in the past, and he does good work, correct?
No, I don't think I've ever used him. I'm not sure if the previous director has, but I know of his work. He's well-known, and I think he's going to do a great job.
Excellent. No, thank you.
Thank you, Al. And, not to say everything falls under the magical FEMA reimbursement, is this something that could fall under FEMA? It is. Let the record show Nancy shook her head, yes. Thank you, Nancy.
Good?
Thank you, Al.
You got
All
it?
right,
And this is all coming from the Storm Recovery Fund.
Right.
understood. All right, so any other questions, comments? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve 21-266.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. 21-267, authorizing emergency contract for repairs to Meadowview Road. I think Matt already alluded to it, so I don't know if we have any more to add, and the chief has already responded.
Yeah, 266 authorizes the money, this authorizes the contract.
Right. Comments, questions? Hearing none, motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. 21-268, establishing procedure for determining that emergency purchasing may be implemented. Jack, actually, could you describe what's happening here?
Yes, the state law requires, in part, that the governing body of each municipality shall adopt rules to ensure there's a procedure for determining and confirming the existence of an emergency, and that the provisions for emergency purchasing pursuant to the statute may be implemented. We may have done that in the past. I don't recall ever doing emergency contracts or appropriations before, to tell you the
I don't
truth.
remember doing it.
And so if there's one in place, it's probably hidden in the old town hall somewhere. So now this time, the deputy mayor essentially performed that function, but I thought we should formalize it. You can name anyone you want. It's set up this way, that it's the mayor, deputy mayor, and after that, the senior member of the township committee.
Okay, so will the wording say mayor, deputy mayor, or designated person from the township committee, or senior member from the township
Yeah,
committee?
there are 3 categories. One is the mayor is hereby, I left out a word, designated, I will correct that, as the person responsible. In the absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor is designated. 3, in the absence of both the mayor and deputy mayor, the senior member of the township committee shall be designated. So,
And what we're doing is formalizing something that should have been in place, and what
like I said,
happened.
it may be in place, but we've never used it. But in any event, we should memorialize it now.
Perfect. Is that clear for everybody? Yes?
Well, you know why, yes. But, I mean, I have, to continue my cranky ways tonight, my thing is, we shouldn't be the one to do that. We pay professionals that work here on a daily basis, that they should be doing it. I think what's the emergency, and Jack, I don't know if this is a law or what it falls under, but it's the Emergency Management Coordinator, I don't know if it's the act or something, but in Directive Number 102, if you scroll down, see, I do legal work sometimes. under Section 2B, it says the New Jersey Management Directive Number 61, November 1986 states, it says obviously we got to appoint somebody. It says, whenever the opinion of municipal emergency management coordinator is, here, whenever in the opinion of the municipal emergency management coordinator, a disaster has occurred or is imminent in the municipality, the EMO director, whatever they want to call a person, shall proclaim a state of local disaster within the municipality.
State of
But
emergency.
but that's different than.
It's not, I'm not talking about state of emergency, I'm talking
Yeah.
about a local one.
No,
Even local state of emergency is different. What we're talking about here is
Right.
emergency appropriation and emergency repairs.
Yes.
So certainly if the emergency management coordinator declared a local state of emergency, that would certainly support that determination by whomever.
For example, Meadowview Road is an emergency, but
Correct.
it's not a state of an emergency.
No, that's
No,
my
no.
point, but they're the ones, I think the OEM, unless I'm reading this wrong, is they can declare a local state of emergency, even though,
Yes, that's right.
that's my point.
So this is not to declare a state of emergency, it's to approve an emergency appropriation and emergency work to be done.
Yes,
And you
and,
probably don't want your emergency management coordinator
Well-
saying you can repair Meadowview Road.
no, but here an example, just because at work I have access to 5 or 6 municipal attorneys.
Yes.
This came up in another town, for example, I forget which town it was, but over Ida, they had something broke on a generator. So they actually, the person was telling me the story, they said, at our next meeting, the township committee has to approve a resolution that they had to do, fix something on this generator, cost $8,000. But clearly, that was already approved by somebody, which
Right.
was the township administrator and/or the CFO, and then the township committee just ratifies it. So my point is that at the first level, it should be somebody we pay, it's a professional staff member, to do this, and then obviously the township committee ratifies it later, just like we're doing with like, the
I'm fine with
repair.
that if you want to make it that.
Yeah, I just think it should be somebody that works here.
Yeah.
We're paying all these people, like, who am I to declare a state of emergency? The CFO and/or the administrators, the ones that gotta pay the bills, not us. So, they're the ones that have the everyday, I don't know what the budget is on a daily basis, but if Al said, hey, by the way, we have, it's snowing, and all our plows are broken, I need to get them fixed, then he's gotta track down you, Brendan, me, whoever, where he can just pick up the phone and call the administrator, the CFO, and say, look, I need to get these fixed today, then they can get them done, and then we can approve it later. So my concern is, I think it should be a professional person, not one of us that does it, because again, we're fungible, we move, change all the time, but there's always an administrator, there's always a CFO, there's always department heads. So that, I don't know how you phrase that, but that's just my concern.
Well, that sounds reasonable to me, Jack.
However you want to set it up, you can.
No, I agree.
I mean, I think, so what would we do here, instead of having the mayor or deputy mayor or one of us, right? It would be
The administrator.
administrator.
Yeah, whoever that may be, or the CFO, or maybe obviously if the administrator's not available, clearly like if they're on vacation, and I'm saying it's Nancy, whoever that person may be, I look at it, no offense to Nancy, I look at it as a position, not a person at this point.
What if it said the mayor or his delegate?
Yeah.
But then who's the delegate though? Because, for example, Guy could delegate Nancy tomorrow, and then you could be the mayor next year and delegate Al, and so who knows, and
Yeah.
Al, nobody knows that.
But, I mean, I think here is pretty, I mean, there's always going to be a mayor, there's always going to be a deputy,
Yes.
and there's always going to be a senior member of the council,
I
so.
would hope so.
You know, you know, it seems that we're just doing the exact same thing, but it's one of us, and so, whenever there is an emergency situation that is either brought to our attention by the administrator or a department head, you know, it's easier for us, I think, to communicate to one another so that we're primed and ready, and so, you know, especially if it comes from, you know, an august body of the mayor to the rest of us, we sit up and pay attention, but you know, that's the. You know, that's why I kind of like this, because it seems to me that it will make things move much smoother.
So where does the
Or
buck
much more
stop?
smoothly.
Where does the buck stop?
Well, that's what I don't know, because obviously, the paid professionals know more about government spending than we do, or they better, because that's why they're hired. I mean, some towns might have somebody on the elected office that understands their QPA, or their administrator, or CFO, they might know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you guys know, but it's whoever the administrator's job is, a CFO, to know what we have, how we can spend it, and things like that. Because if it's some wacky request right off the bat, Randy would say, no, that, you're not buying a carnival balloon animal because it's an emergency. But I'm just saying is that, then we're left, then what happens is we make a decision, and they're left holding the bag. trying to pay for it
Yeah,
and get around the
look,
laws.
I agree.
Yeah, and I have no problem. The BA or the CFO probably a better place.
Yeah, then obviously we
I know,
approve
I hear
it.
what you're
Yes.
saying, Brendan,
No,
but
no, but I think, I mean, really, I think it kind of, you know, and again, I think it's going the other way, so just let me say this, and I'll be fine. I mean, I think it's whoever it is amongst us, right, who actually certifies that yes, there or says, yeah, there's an emergency. That person then gets in touch with the administrator, the CFO, whoever needs to be involved, and you know, and again, there's that central kind of hub, so that whenever it's brought back to the rest of us, we already know that, yep, these other bodies are in place and have are working on whatever needs to be done to implement the emergency, but it still comes back to a mayor, deputy mayor, or it goes right down the line with us. And so we've got 5 people here rather than an administrator or a CFO who are busy doing their regular jobs, especially during emergencies. I mean, I think it's just I like this actually. I think it works better. But,
The problem I have with it is the word emergency can be broadly interpreted.
okay, so keep going. What do you mean?
Well, let's see. How many times did you go in the dunk tank? Were you getting hypothermia? Did we need to run out and get you clothes because it was an emergency?
No, I think that's defined elsewhere.
Yeah,
It
that's-
affects the health, safety, or welfare.
Okay, where's it defined?
That's actually in the statute.
That's
Yeah,
in the
that's in the
statute.
Yeah, that's in the
Yeah.
statute.
I
That we
mean-
talked about last meeting.
And I think that's the other thing, you know, if one of us comes and says, oh, the sky's falling down, there's an emergency, you go to the administrator, you go to the CFO, you go to Jack, whoever you go to, and they kind of calm you down and say, here's the statute, does it actually meet these criteria? And if it's agreed that it is yes, then you get everybody else involved.
Look, I hear you,
like
and you made a very valid point, kind of thing. I think my challenge is in this form of government. You know, if this were a strong mayor form of government, I don't know what it technically is called.
Weak mayor.
We're a weak mayor.
You just didn't want to say that.
Yeah,
I
weak
don't-
mayor, weak mayor.
Weak. Not the person sitting in the middle tonight. Nicole, please don't quote Brendan.
in the
or I'll make-
statute.
Look, I will make you stand up and show the public your pants.
I was just quoting the statute, Mayor.
Anything for the weak mayor.
It's, for me, it is a challenge to make it the mayor or the deputy mayor because of the form of government, which is probably the most common form of government in the state of New Jersey. It's
I
certainly-
think borough's the most and township
Oh, borough
second,
is okay.
But between the two of them, it's overwhelming majority
So,
of towns are borough and township.
You know, it's the form of government that leads me to say, I think I prefer the BA and the CFO. And I
No, no, no.
understand what you're saying.
I've said my piece, and as I say, I'm, you know, wherever way we go, but
Look, Matt's lost a few debates tonight. Give him a win. Give him a win.
The one on the construction.
So Jack, what does this provide that we don't have now?
It names the person to fill the function that Brendan performed during audit. To say, this is an emergency, we have to spend money, and we have to bring in a contractor to do it on an emergency basis.
And the one thing is that we're, you know, each one of us is a liaison to a certain group, or, you know, or his knowledge, general knowledge of certain things that are happening. And so that's why I think, you know, perhaps we're better positioned to actually, you know, be able to bring that to the attention of the appropriate people in administration and the rest of us. And so that's why I like this.
The DCA rule requires that we designate somebody to make that
So
decision.
why does it have to be one person?
We could say the mayor, or the administrator, or the mayor, or
If we
however you want to.
we can substitute the way it's written now, like a will. If Scott's unavailable, be the administrator, then Victor will be. If Victor's not available, then Kyle will be. So this one, see, what I might quick change, instead of where it says number 1 to the mayor, I would just change that to the administrator. Then number 2, in the absence of the mayor, instead of deputy mayor, make the CFO. And then 3 could be the line of succession where it'd be mayor, if he's not around or she's not around, deputy mayor, and then or the senior member. So either way, it's gonna filter down to us at some point. But at least that's the first line of defense, because even what Brendan said is that, yeah, maybe they come to me first, but then that's still an extra layer when they just go directly to the CFO or the thing, it cuts one step out of the process. But I think it'd be faster to cut one of us out and go right to the people that are paying the bills.
Should it be the QPA instead of the CFO? And I'm just asking position, not the person filling the
No, that's what I'm
position.
saying. That I don't,
Because the CFO is basically in charge of money,
yes.
whereas the QPA is more involved in purchasing and things. And I'm just throwing the question
No,
out
I
there.
agree. That makes, I mean, Nancy, you're more familiar with this than I am, so.
And Nancy's probably better qualified to answer than I am.
And what's the escalation path if there's a disagreement?
But it would obviously probably come to us for some kind of,
Well, it doesn't matter. The person you name is the first person. It's binding until the next governing body meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I think that's one reason to have it memorialized, beyond the fact that the rule requires it.
no, and again, you know, I said I wasn't going to say anything. I'll say one more thing. It's like, here we are, right? We're the sort of 5 elected officials within the town to look out for the health and welfare and of the residents, and so that's why, again, I like that, because that's our focus, right? And you know, with the tentacles that we have into the various organisations and departments within the town, we get to see that where you know, other functions within the town may not see that as clearly as we do. And so all we're doing is we're bringing it to the attention of everybody, getting everybody who needs to be involved, and then letting the whole process play out. And that's why I like it the way that it is right now, because, okay, the CFO's, you know, is in charge of the money, or the QPA, whoever, but we're the ones charged with the health safety of the residents, and that's why I think it should be one of us.
And to beat my point, and
Okay.
thank you, it's, again, back to the form of government. What if the mayor, one of us, one of the 5 up here, says yes, and the other 4 vehemently disagree? In a city form of government, bummer, that's the mayor.
Right.
But as I say, whoever makes that, who's ever designated as the number 1 QB1, that person's decision's binding until there's a meeting in the township committee.
Yeah, but what if the repair's already been done?
Well, it's too late. But
Yeah.
That's my point.
but whoever is designated, that's going to be true.
Fair.
Yeah, and the other thing there is, what if they haven't been done, and because it wasn't regarded as an emergency by someone not on the body on this body who's charged with the resident safety and well-being, and it kind of comes back to, it really ends up, we're the ones in the firing line, and so this is self-protection as far as I'm concerned.
If I could make a suggestion, at first blush, I thought, absolutely, I'm good with it, and then I hear all these different sides of the issue. Is this something that we could table for further discussion? Because I thought it was,
Yes, we certainly
it
can.
turns out that it's multi-layered, and maybe it warrants further discussion. I'm just
Hopefully we
saying.
won't have an emergency
See, the
between
thing
now
is,
and
and I think that's
November,
a
whatever.
great suggestion, because I agree strongly with Matt, and I agree strongly with
Yes,
Brendan.
I
Whoever has
find
the last
myself
word
in
with
that
it wins.
position too. I'm being honest.
But like I said, I think the administrator makes perfect sense. She's in a position of administering. It's the second level.
All right, so
It-
why
it
don't
requires
we
more
table it, mull it around a little bit, and we can talk about it? I mean, it hasn't existed for how many years? Or maybe at the old town hall?
Yeah, my reservation with it is that, you know, I know that this group would do the right thing, and we did. But it just feels like one of these things that could be abused in the future. So, you know, you got to worry about unintended consequences. If you were going to vote on this the way it is, I would vote no.
Okay,
Only because of, I don't trust the future.
not the people.
But I totally agree. Let's table it and talk it and kind of tighten it up and sort of, you know, smoke test it so that
Yeah,
we
think it
find
through.
any possible abuse in the future,
No,
right? I threw that in for you, Brendan, because I know you like to run around.
By smoke tested, did you
Yeah.
mean let's torch Brendan's house? And that's an emergency? All right, I think that's probably a
Yep.
good suggestion. So, Victor, thank you very much. Liaison report. Since Brendan is so verbose this evening, why don't we start with him? No, I have nothing to say.
I'm completely quiet. No report.
This is running out of batteries. I think the pencil for that.
Good.
No report tonight.
Oh, now I have nothing to say.
His pants are loud, not him.
Well, he hasn't stood up yet. We're not turning it off until you actually stand. Scott, yours is going to be very long, it looks to me, so.
Well,
Matt?
it's,
Mine will be pretty quick. 'cause
Okay.
Yeah,
I can do it quick. Monday, as you know, is a holiday, but the garbage and recycling will be picked up. So please put your garbage and recycling out Monday for the garbage if you're in that zone. Townwide recycling is still Monday. Please do not bother the DPW if it is going to be there. They're coming to get it, so don't worry. The DPW is prepping for the winter season. They're still doing lawn maintenance. Catch basin repairs and potholes they're still doing, so if you see a pothole or know of one, please, there's a thing on the website, you can notify the for potholes or just email the DPW. They're also doing crack sealing, so if there's some roads, again, that have bad cracks in them and they might not know about it, please let them know. The last of the debris from, what's that? Ida, whatever his name is now, that was all hauled off, and it's gone. And remember, the residents, you're allowed to bring any landscaping debris down to the DPW for free, as long as you're a resident, at any time while it's open, and right now, they're still open on Saturday from 8 to 1. So I know people work, or might have to borrow a pickup truck or something, but that's on Saturday, 8 to 1. And also like to thank Nancy and Colette at Town Hall and Al for help organizing, at least as far as I remember, the first townwide cleanup day. I don't know how many volunteers we had, probably well over 50, correct?
It was about 100.
About 100 volunteers, families, kids, adults, people that come out that you've never seen before, so it's a chance to get everybody involved. Al, how many bags, or did you monitor how much that people picked up?
I think it was 32 bags.
Yeah, Al said there was 32 bags of waste and garbage. I know someplace they might just put it in the garbage at where they were if they had a garbage. So believe me, it does make a big difference. And thank every single resident that came out, your efforts and your time. It did make a difference, and I could see it even on my street alone how much nicer it looks. So thank you.
can I add something there too?
Go ahead.
Because I think the initial suggestion came from the public, and Nancy, you kind of planned this whole thing out yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that was a phenomenal, and it was a great way to bring the community together, the food and the vendors that came in.
Yeah,
It was tremendous.
If I could just jump in, since you bring it up, the vendors, if I could also thank Angie's Deli, Natal's Pizza, Burger King, and Ava's Ice Cream for donating and discounting the food that we served. Some of it was donated, some of it was discounted.
Yeah. But that was really nice. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, and I want to second that. Nancy, thank you. You shepherded this from the beginning, then I think we were stormed out or COVIDed out, so you had to redo it again. And I want to thank your family. Your family showed up that day as well, and they worked very hard. There are pictures of the mayor doing manual labor that day, and
Your gloves were clean.
my gloves were clean. That is true. Matt, I'm sorry.
No, that's it, thank you. No, Scott, thank you for reminding me, Nancy, that's great with the sponsors too, because please patronize those businesses. Even though Ava's is not in town, the owner does live in town and they have good products, so please patronize those businesses too.
Thank you. Scott?
Okay. Basketball. October's about basketball. Rec basketball registration's going on right now. Early bird pricing is available until November 1st. And then the season starts Saturday, November 20th. That's rec basketball. Travel basketball. Travel basketball tryouts are going on this week. We've got evaluators who are looking at kids for this, so that's going on this week. They'll pick teams, and that'll start in November as well. Those tryouts, by the way, go till the 20th. Adult basketball. Adult basketball starts on the 21st. Thursday nights. So if you're an adult and you're interested in that, do it. Next, Halloween. Halloween parade, Sunday, October 17th. This is great for grammar school aged children. It'll be at 3 p.m. at Cantor Memorial Park on Sunday, October 17th. And then the Long Hill First Aid Squad is sponsoring the Trunk or Treat Halloween Extravaganza, Saturday, October 23rd, 1:30 to 3:30, the back of Town Hall in the parking lot, 915 Valley Road. And then lastly, Rec is sponsoring a couple of Red Cross classes. There's a first aid class on October 28th, that's a Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m. And also a CPR and defibrillator class on Wednesday, November 10th, 6 to 9 p.m. So busy couple of months coming up.
Thank you, Scott. Victor?
Okay, the police liaison report for October 6th, 2021 is as follows. Self-initiated calls for service year-to-date, 16,042. School activity year-to-date, 1,431. Motor vehicle stops year-to-date, 1,579. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 1,310. Arrest incidents year-to-date, 25. And actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, arrested, 29. Special requests, we have none. Community policing, we have none. But major incidents, I have one. And I mean this sincerely, despite our excellent police department and our close-knit community filled with amazing neighbors that look out for each other, crime does occur in Long Hill Township from time to time. In particular, in the area of motor vehicle theft. Please make an effort to lock your vehicles. Do not leave keys and personal information such as wallets or purses and pocketbooks in your cars, and park them in the driveway whenever possible. Because if you don't, you may wake up the next morning with no car parked where it was the prior day. So please don't take for granted our great safe community and our excellent police department. Take your own initiative. Remember to lock your doors. Don't leave your keys in your cars nor personal belongings. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Okay, so Nancy, Administrator's Report.
I have a request from the Junior Girl Scout Troop, 96834. They would like to place 4 birdhouses along the hiking trail in Hicks Tract. They would place them on a wooden post or hang them from a tree branch. The rec director is fine with it, but because it's township property, so we should ask you if you're okay with it. Yep. Okay.
Of course. Thank them for us if you don't mind.
Yep. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so discussion item for those following along at home. Item number 8, Cantor Park trees. Victor, I mean, Nancy, I don't care. Did somebody want to describe this? Well, I don't know. Vic, you've been working on it. Nancy, did you want to discuss it? Scott, actually, you and I have talked about this at length.
Well, if I could give you a rundown on.
I would appreciate that.
As you know, a while ago, we talked about how the area bordering Valley Road at Cantor Park was cleared, and you asked me to look into how much trees would cost to buffer the, buffer the lights from the houses across the street. The DPW director and head of the beautification committee and the rec director and myself met with someone from a nursery at the beginning of the summer. We walked the property, and recently I got a quote for 40 5-foot green giants for a cost of $7,200 plus $4,200 to plant them. Since the overgrowth has grown back some, we were thinking that you may not want to do it anymore. So before we actually make the purchase, I thought we'd revisit it and see if you still were interested now that we have a price and now that some of the underbrush has grown back.
Thank you, Nancy. There was some confusion, right? There were 40 trees, 80 trees. I think really
Well-
what we're talking about is 40 trees, right?
They gave a quote for 45 foot and 46 foot, but they recommend 45 foot.
That's what, and that was the confusion at least I had. Scott, you and I discussed this.
Yeah.
So it's 40 trees. It's just a question whether you
And-
do 6 foot or 5
Or
foot.
5 foot, right, obviously the 6 foot are more, they're $11,000. They recommend the 5 foot, and where they would go is on the park side of that wooded area. So they would be along, where the wall is above the soccer field. They'd be
Mhm.
back toward the tree line.
What's the length that they would stretch? I'm assuming they're all in a row, 6 feet apart. How many feet is that? Is that like 250 feet, something like that?
I think in
Al,
length, it's
do you-
probably about 20 feet wide, right? Would you say, Al, or
Yeah,
not?
no, I'm not concerned with width, though. I'm concerned with length.
I believe it goes all the way across to where those dogwoods start,
Yeah.
that we put in.
'Cause
I
that's
mean,
like a football field long, right? But it's not
It's-
the whole length,
It's
right?
pretty, it's close. It's close to the football
It's
field
gonna be
length.
about 300 yards then.
And they would be planted far enough apart because they spread out quite a
So
bit.
what's the spacing per tree, did they say? We don't have that.
It was 10 feet.
10 feet apart, so 40 trees, 400 feet. Okay. And the other thing, I'll make an observation, because I actually walked that path during cleanup day. We were up there cleaning up. And what's growing back are weeds, and, weeds and weed trees. So, me personally, I think we should do it. We should keep going with it.
I have to ask, are we talking about 40 evergreens, only evergreens?
There are arborvitaes, they're called green giants.
They're tall, they're those
How-
tall columnar
How tall
trees.
do they get? Like, they start at 5 foot, they get taller? So like
They
over
get
by
taller
Mead's
and
house,
they-
they're gonna get,
Right, and they spread out.
yeah, no, but approximately how tall will they get? Oh, okay, so eventually that'll block everything then.
My question is,
Is
is
it?
it,
everybody that just goes straight up.
Okay.
Actually branch out and you'll get covered.
and I understand that we need, that people want some type of buffer, and I do believe that we need to do something because it's starting to grow back so sooner than later. However, from the main avenue, when you're driving by, and I don't want to compare us to other towns, do we really think that that's a great look to have just a row of arborvitaes there? I mean, can we come up with a nicer look for our main, Valley Road? I mean, personally, I don't want to name other towns, but I don't think we
Go
would
ahead.
do it in some of the other surrounding towns. I think it would make it look a little more appealing than that.
For example,
Yeah,
Maybe
name
some,
them,
maybe
name
some
names.
flowering trees, maybe you mix in a different type of evergreen here and there, rather than a straight row of arborvitaes.
I actually have one question. The arborvitae, is that deer food, or is it one of those varieties that they don't touch? They don't? Oh, okay.
Al, you and I have talked about it. You have a row, I have a row. I put it in specifically as a screen. Deer don't, and I live across from the swamp. Deer never come.
I don't know what direction, but I think the first decision that needs to be made is, how well do you want to maintain that property from Valley Road to those trees going to be? There's discussion that the growth that's there, let it grow back natural, and then I think there's mixed emotions that you want that cleared out and the trees put in. So I think the first decision is, what do you want to do with the hillside now, that the stuff is there growing back that we put there? That's your decision.
I think the first decision is to, in other words, what was done, we got rid of the dead stuff and the weed trees. Let's prevent that stuff from growing back and having to do that again, and then determine what we think would be a proper, planting, both functionally and aesthetically, because we're not just talking about some area that's not well traveled, we're talking about a spot where people drive by.
By the way, our arborvitaes are not ugly.
Look at Mead's house, that's exactly where they are. That's the
Right.
best example I can cite,
I
right?
mean,
I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, right across from Gillette School.
But I mean, wouldn't an area where you had mixed different evergreens and maybe a flowering tree here and there might look a lot nicer than just a straight row of evergreens on Valley Road? A straight row
It's
of
not on
arborvitae.
Valley Road, right? It's
Inside.
No,
inside.
it's not,
Inside of
it's
it.
not visible from Valley Road. So this was, Bob, I can't think of his
Lahaf.
last name, Lahaf.
From Paul's Garden Center.
yeah, from Halls, and this is what he recommended.
Right,
I
so
think we see
basically,
it.
it's a screen. It'll look like a shadow from the road because there's other trees along the road, right? The purpose of these is to create a screen to make sure that the neighbors aren't bothered by the light.
And a noise
And
buffer.
absorb sound too.
And
That's
absorb
exactly
sound.
right.
Right. But as far as looking at it from the road, I mean, there's trees there in front of the road. You're not going to see those behind it. It's just going to be a shadow.
So what I'm hearing is, so the area between the road and these trees, we're gonna make that look really nice.
We could.
Because I think that that's important. I think that that's a crucial, you know,
There's nothing to say that we couldn't.
No.
and then, okay, and then behind that, which would be less visible, far less visible from the street, would be a row of arborvitae's.
Right. Growing as a
Then
screen.
not that it's my call, but I would, you know, personally, I would find that more desirable, you know, if we made the area up front toward the, you know, look nice.
Yeah.
I
But
think
you
it's
want to,
important.
you want to do this now because, like I
Yes,
said,
okay,
I
I
was up there and the weeds are growing, right? Those little puffs that are going, you're going to get, tree of heaven's going to grow up there because that is specifically the kind of cleared land that those trees inhabit. And once that happens, you're going to have trouble.
I agree. I agree. Definitely need to take action on it. I just
So,
want to make sure that as
to-
a
to-
committee,
yeah.
we agree
Thank you.
that it's an important tract of land and we should just make sure it looks nice, in addition to the functional.
Thank you. And so Nancy, now that we clarified it's not 80 trees, it's 45 or 46 foot
No,
trees.
it's 40.
40. What's the total cost with the installation?
11.
With the installation is,
I
11,400.
can even do that math. Where's that money come from? That's the question I had.
Well, I mean, that's up to you. Out of the Open Space Trust Fund, you
Well,
know,
didn't we allocate $10,000 to the beautification committee?
we did. I believe we spent some of it, but it doesn't cover this.
Look, I have no problem. The open space trust fund is there. It's a qualified use, right, Jack? So, I mean, I'm fine with that. My only point is, you know, we're in October now. Have we spent anything that was allocated to the beautification committee?
We spent money on wildflowers. We're spending money on wraps for the
Okay, so let's
utility
not
box.
use their money. Let's,
Yeah, there wasn't that much money in there anyway, was there?
10,000.
Oh, okay.
So I think the recommendation, I don't know if anybody made that recommendation, is we use the open space trust fund.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And
Use it right
Nancy,
now.
you can certify that there is in fact money in the open space trust fund
There
to be allocated for this cost.
is. Jack, do we have to do anything next meeting for that?
Well, why don't we take a vote on a motion to approve it?
I make a motion.
Second.
Brendan said second. He's soft. He used this,
Committeeman Dorsey?
Inside,
his Barry
yes,
White
his
voice.
inside Barry White.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rai?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
I gotta lay off the caffeine. All right, and I think, did I vote? I vote yes.
I voted anyway.
Old business, new business. Any?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Mark Katriniak
Oh.
is in the audience if you,
Oh, I apologize, Mark. My bad. So, Mark, you're going to come up to the mic and state your name, address, zodiac sign.
What type? Good evening. Mark Katriniak, I'm with Ferrera Engineering, representing the township as the township engineer. I wanted to provide the committee with an update on the status of the Cross Hill drainage contract with Crossroads Paving. I know there was a discussion at the last meeting regarding the contractor's lack of response, you know, and I got to say that the contractor has, you know, really continued to not be that responsive when it comes to getting information here. He's been forthcoming with information when I call him, but it takes me to call him and sort of prod him to get information out of him. You know, there was concern raised by the committee members regarding the timeliness of this project, the timeliness of his responses to get started, the importance of getting some of this work done, given the nature of the drainage improvements that are proposed on this site. I don't believe his portrayal of all the facts in terms of how things got started was factual here, completely factual here when it started. But where we are today, in the last 2 weeks, I worked with the contractor back and forth to try to get details ironed out with the precasting for his manholes and inlets. Those have to be formed by the concrete precaster, so they come as preformed boxes as opposed to being built by brick in the field. Back and forth, he'll send me a submission, I get it right back to him, it takes him a day or two to respond, so we went back and forth for a while with that, but he was pretty quick after the last meeting here to get me the additional information I had requested. I just today, after calling the contractor, received a schedule from the precaster, and the production of those are not scheduled to be done until starting October 14th, and that production run extends through November 1st. Add to that production time, delivery date, actual shipping date, so the current construction schedule at the precaster still has them putting out, 2 to 3 weeks before the boxes will be here. The pipe and castings have been partially delivered. They are on site at the Millington train station parking lot. I'm told that the contractor, I'm told by the contractor that his supplier says the rest of the pipe will be here within the next 2 to 3 business days, so more pipe will arrive. Looking at the paperwork, because this project had extended beyond, the start date had extended quite some time here too, we looked and we determined that his public works contractor's registration has since expired, so, which is not uncommon because it's an annual certificate, so it's not uncommon at the time of bid to have a valid certificate, and then as the project continues, it is up to the contractor to provide an updated one. I saw that it expired. We contacted him, and he was told us that they were late submitting their renewal, so they don't have one yet. So they hope to get that within the next, he said any day now. So we've got a few anomalies with this particular contractor. So we've been trying to stay on top of him, just to make sure that all of these dates. I did reach out to him again today and ask if he's even done his utility markouts yet, because it typically takes about 10 days to clear for a utility markout. Thinking that if we get lucky and the precast comes in 2 weeks, we'll have the markout. I don't want him to wait 2 weeks to now, okay, I got my boxes, let's do a markout. So each step at a time here, we've been baby stepping through this thing here, but it's been a slow process, and I'm concerned that we're gonna get, we probably won't get started until, late October, early November here with some of that drainage work. You're certainly looking at extending this project into the spring.
Can I ask you a question? So,
Sure.
and Scott had done a great job at the last meeting. Obviously, you watched it because you're referencing it. The concern is, this is a long delayed project, long before we ever went out to bid on it. And it creates a dangerous situation in the winter. Even if we go by the timeline that you just went through in great detail, if it gets to the point in the winter where to do that final paving part, whatever that's called,
Right.
and it's, because of the cold, it's not a smart idea, can that road with the proper drainage and everything else you just described be left in whatever that bottom coat is? And it will, the key here is to prevent that flooding, icing over, thawing, and then creating a dangerous situation.
Correct. I see the critical component from a winter safety standpoint is getting the new inlets put in place and the new piping put in place so that the water doesn't stay on the road and drain. You can certainly construct with road base, which is the sub-base material, the asphalt. You can construct the base material up to the surface of the road, and that's a suitable riding surface. It's a little rougher than the finished paving surface, but it's certainly a suitable riding surface for vehicles, through the winter months until the spring would come and the weather's cooperative with respect to the final surface paving. Once we got past like mid-November, I wouldn't recommend that the paving be
Okay.
the finished paving be done after that point anyway. The asphalt plants
Mark-
typically close, and you don't get the quality. I'll give you an example. If a new subdivision were built, it's very common when a new housing subdivision gets built, that the road is built up to the base in the front section of the homes, and people live with that condition for years sometimes until the rest of it's developed.
Well,
Hey,
you must
Mark-
be
Mark,
talking
I-
about
can I-
Karen Dietrich Drive.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, let me-
so allowing the contractor to put the piping in, and constructing the road up to the base and using the base as a temporary surface doesn't compromise anything from the town's perspective.
Can I get it, let me jump in here for a second.
Sure.
What about for snow plowing?
If it's built to the surface, then it would be acceptable. As long as there's not a lip or a drop somewhere, then it was to be a plow. So what the contractor would do is there'd be some sacrificial material. He would build the base up to the existing surface of the road. When he came back in the spring, he'd mill that off and pave.
And then who kind of bird dogs him to make sure that it's prepped for that if we have to get to that point? Is that you?
While he's doing those repairs, we would be inspecting that to make sure that he
Okay.
builds that grade back up to the surface. The only critical element we would have, if he was really pushing the envelope here with some piping installations as we get close to some bad weather, and this is going to be almost a day-to-day call, is I've required the contractor to have steel plates on the job site so that if for some reason we're near a driveway, we've got a critical installation, and he cannot backfill that trench for some reason,
He's gotta put a
he'd have to
plate down.
trench that. That I would not want left on long-term, because that would become a problem, for plowing. So we would, if we get real close to the winter months, then we're gonna have him button up whatever he can with base.
And can I circle back to what you had said? I called it drainage, you called it something else. Does temperature affect that work? I said drainage, but you called it something else.
I said inlets and
Yeah.
and the manholes. Yeah, the inlets. Temperature does affect that to some degree, but you really have to have a full deep freeze before you really can't start excavating. So you can work into the colder months with the installations of the pipe. You have to do, compaction becomes a little bit more, dicey. So like anything else, when you're working in cold weather, you change your methods a little bit. But the duration here is clearly going to extend into the month. I still would like to see the contractor get moving on this, and I've been pushing him on a daily basis to try to give me some answers and get schedules. Again,
Look, we appreciate you doing
it's
that.
dragging along, it's tough. And I think that the portrayal before of, we've been waiting and haven't heard anything, there's a lot of measures in any bid document that we have that require the contractor, it's incumbent upon the contractor to be responsible here. The terms in our bids are that these are time of the essence contracts. The reason we put these out, regardless of delays prior to bid, these are still time of the essence contracts, and we hold the contractor to a tight time frame. We started the time here. We try to do the contractors a favor and delay the notice to proceed sometimes, just so that the clock doesn't get started. We don't lose time with contractual issues, right? We don't lose time with days.
Was notice to proceed issued?
Yes, notice to proceed was issued.
What date was that, do you know?
It was about two and a half weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
I don't recall the exact date off the top of my head, but what that does is that starts a clock. And once that clock starts running, with the exception of, let's say, extraordinary conditions such as weather, the 90-day clock starts to run on this, and if he's now risking liquidated damages should he not finish in time. So it's more at his risk now at this point. We try to be cooperative in the beginning to let the contractor have the full.
Your context is a little different. His context was we didn't send a notice to proceed. The context here is that, we kind of delay it so the clock didn't start and put you in a position,
Right,
vulnerable
right.
position.
We actually do that to help the contractors,
you.
but it's really incumbent upon the contractor here to be responsive. You bid on this, you wanted this work, we're not here to babysit you, we're here to make sure you meet all the requirements. But this one has been a little tough trying to get his attention and pulling him in. And I'm concerned for the project extending into a critical weather month now. I'm concerned for that happening here, because we don't want to leave that open to the road. But I agree with you, Mayor, that the more we can get done to avoid an icing condition in the winter, one less winter of these icing problems that the residents have to contend with is the benefit. And I think that's what's important here. But I don't have enough to feel comfortable to tell you when the inlet boxes will actually be here on site so that we can actually get started.
Thank you for staying on top of him, because I know we don't like to babysit him, but I think we're now in a situation where your babysitting him is kind of very helpful for us.
Yeah,
because,
unfortunately, it's necessary at this point, I think.
Yeah,
but,
we're
you know,
running out of daylight, so to speak, on
Yeah,
this project.
Mark, how often do we pay him? I know like if you have a contract and work at your house, you get periodic payments. How often do we have, is there any legal authority, so we have to pay him at certain times, or how does that work?
Payment is no more frequent than monthly. So he can submit monthly invoices for his work, and it's based on progress in the field. So the prompt payment laws kind of lean in the contractor's direction that way. So once he submits a payment, we're obligated to react to it. So we can't really hold payment hostage later.
How long
But
do we have to react to it?
once you
assuming the
receive
work
it,
is done?
once you receive it, it's 20 days.
20?
20 days.
That's enough time.
Yeah.
But
it's for work.
A voucher saying this work has been.
Yeah.
done.
That's what I mean, it's gotta be
And not-
inspected.
and it's reviewed by Mark.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah,
meant.
so it's reviewed, right. So he can't, I mean, he could submit a bill for his submittals at this point. That would be such a minuscule bill, and we would argue that one. I don't foresee him submitting a bill until he gets some real field progress in. But my concern for, just a little, it's the sum total of all the little anomalies here, right? The business registration, not the public works registration sort of drops off the table. So the shop drawings kind of get sloppy on the returns. So you start saying, well, listen, who's watching the store here? Let's make sure we get all these elements put in place so we don't have a problem later.
Yeah, again, thanks for doing your babysitting here, Mark. But I mean, I think we're kind of, we're midstream and there's no changing horses. So we need to, this thing needs to keep to the schedule that we can get this drainage at least taken care of before the weather turns. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And sorry,
Okay.
I didn't realize you were in the
No,
audience.
that's all right. I had just wrapped up another meeting and I jumped in, so you called me
All
just in
right.
time, so, all right.
Mark, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go on to announcements. Senior Center Rummage Sale this Saturday, October 9th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sunday, October 10th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The police will be selling breast cancer aware police patches. Please see any PBA member to purchase badges. $5 per, Chief? $5 per. And it's a wonderful, wonderful cause. October 9th, put this one, that's this Saturday. PBA, Pro Wrestling Event. I don't know why it says 3 p.m. I don't think that's correct. And that's why I kept looking. Every 5 minutes I would get an update for what the times were. Now I can't find it.
Probably 6 or 7. Stu's that
So
evening.
ironically, I took the time off of the special events permit, so that's probably when they're starting to set up.
Okay.
So,
I apologize. It's somewhere listed. Chief, you don't know what it is. I know Gary and the police are very involved in this. You wouldn't know when the actual... Your show time is 7 p.m., thank you. So 7 p.m. to midnight. Wow. It's probably 7 p.m. to like 10, 11, and then there's the cleanup. So try to get there at 6:30. Brendan is going to be a contestant, and I think you saw his outfit. He's wrestling under the stage name Doink. Doink.
The doctor style.
Actually, I like Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yes.
I like that.
He's got that outfit. Hot rod.
All right, the chief is some kind of hot. All right, Town Hall will be closed on October 11th. Happy Columbus Day to everybody out there. Recycling is still going to be picked up, and anybody who's in Zone 5, was
Was
it?
it 1 out? 1.
1, Zone 1?
Everything's the same for Monday as if the holidays doesn't happen. Put it that way.
Perfect. Then why don't we just look at it that way? Recycling and garbage will take place as per schedule. October 12th is voter registration deadline for the general election. The general election is November 2nd. So please, if you want to register, you are tight timeline now. And Scott, could you repeat the trunk or treat and because it's not your typical Halloween date.
Right. Oh.
It's October 17th, I think?
The 23rd.
Trunk or treat. I gotta find it here. my stack of stuff.
I love putting people on the spot.
All right. It's October 23rd, Saturday, 1:30.
That's trunk or treat.
That's trunk or treat.
And the parade?
Parade is
17th.
October 17th.
There you go. So October 17th,
And what time on the 17th?
3 p.m. sharp.
3 p.m. sharp.
3 p.m. sharp for all those little kids. Hopefully, just once, give.
Brendan's going to wear the other half of the banana costume.
Oh, jeez. The, still want to play, huh? Yeah, hopefully this year, can somebody promise kind of slightly warmer weather? It seems every time it's a little chilly for the poor kids. And as usual, I will vote for those who wear unicorn outfits. All right, that's it. So, item number 11, the meeting is open to the public. Remarks, statements pertaining to any matter, comments, remarks, please try to limit it to 3 minutes if you could. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Tom Groscuff, Gillette. This week, I went onto the website and I filled out an email with questions. And I believe, at least under the old website setup, that I was supposed to go to all of you. And I have received no answers. So I don't know if the website has, I'm seeing some heads nod saying that, yeah, I saw the emails and nobody responded, but it's okay. It was basically in question to the point I brought up at the last meeting, and I heard earlier, well, you guys disrupted my dinner, but while watching from home, and I do like the LHTV option, that the chief does have a petty cash type of fund. I don't know if it's enough for him to do what he wanted to do. It brought to me a question at that point. For the emergency vehicle that he wanted that costs almost $1 million, I'm assuming that his petty cash was higher than $2,000. Was it because of the vehicle type that
Military vehicle?
Yeah,
Oh, no, that's, the government gives them that. They just got to get it here.
right, but he had to come here and ask you for the $2,000 to spend.
No, they said
They
they asked
did.
us permission to actually participate in the program, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, they can procure whatever they want. Once
And honestly, I don't think it's just about the money, it's also the type of vehicle. I think the Township Committee
And that
is the authority to agree to that. And that
and
sounds
that-
a little pretentious, but
that makes
Jack,
perfect
correct me if
sense
I'm
to me.
wrong.
And plus, the program itself needs a resolution.
Yeah.
It requires a resolution, so.
Correct. There's nothing to do with whether we trust the chief or not, but it needs to be discussed in public and approved in public.
I didn't say that again. I only said it once. Thank you for that. I did have something else.
Well,
Chuck, why don't it's-
Well, while you're,
it's-
I have a question for you, though. You asked
Yes.
us to give the chief, and I'm gonna say the chief, the police department, a $25,000 slush fund, in essence, or any department for that matter. But like the Board of Ed, which you're on, we're constricted by government funding and government spending regulations. So we'll can discuss it when the Board of Ed decides to give the teachers or anybody else a $25,000 fund to every teacher, department head in school, then we can discuss it more.
I don't want to get in trouble from anybody on the Board of Ed. I am not here representing
Oh,
the
no,
Board
I'm
of
not
Ed.
saying you are. I brought it up. I'm just saying.
That's okay.
They can come anytime they want. I think the mayor's invited them here numerous times, correct? The Board of Ed?
Yeah, every mayor going back, whatever. Anyway, let's not go down that road.
I will say as an observer that the new superintendent and the administrator have been working very well together, and things have, and Scott, I'm sure you can attest to it, have been going along much more swimmingly between the two organizations.
Agreed.
And I
Whatever
was-
animosity there was seems to have gone away.
And I was remiss, I want to thank Superintendent Ann Mucci, because she sent a lovely ement, which was very complimentary to the police department. She went through a whole list of things that your department chief has been doing with the schools, so, but I didn't get it until late today, or I didn't see it till late today. But to your point, I hear wonderful things about Dr. Mucci.
She's really well, she's on top of it. I didn't come here to bash anybody, as you all kind of like winced when I showed up, but I just wanted to say thank you. And is that the right form if I wanted to get questions to the Township Committee? Or should I go to each of your individual township emails and?
No, to be fair, Tom, I think all of us received it.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't feel comfortable, I can speak for myself, responding to that in that form. I think this is a better forum.
Then perhaps just an answer of, please come to the next town meeting and we can discuss it in open forum, that's fine. Because you had once told me, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I said that I sent an email, why did I not get a response? And you said, you didn't ask any questions. Very fair. So
No,
I made sure every statement, every sentence was a question.
No, I think I channeled my inner Jack Nicholson and said, you have to ask nicely.
But, no, so if that system's working, that's great, and long live Long Hill.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm here to help.
And you do.
Thank you.
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. A question was brought up by Township Committeeman Matt Dorsey of why I didn't respond to a $20,000 line item for the police emergency repair. On my behalf and the other taxpayers, there were no details provided with the proposed $350,000 or $438,000 expenditure for the emergency repairs. There was no detail on the agenda. I didn't want to issue an Oprah, so I wanted to make it clear in my defense and the other taxpayers, they couldn't comment on what they didn't see or read. Second comment. This issue of who reports to whom in the administrative police matters, I'm not going to comment on the resolution, but I'm going to comment on professional relationships. It was commented that there's some personality clashes, I spent 20+ years working for one of the largest professional service firms in the world. We had personality clashes, like most other organizations. But our policy was, you are professionals, and you are to work together professionally. If that cannot be done, one or both of the individuals were no longer employed with this professional services firm. So I recommend to you, as the Township Committee responsible for all professional members that are employed by local township, that they need to be working together as professionals. I've said numerous times to my former employees, we're not asking you to socialize with other professionals or go out for drinks or whatever, but we expect you to perform in a professional manner. And if that wasn't worked out, you'd be looking for another job. So I'd advise you, if we have problems like this, and I think some of this was alluded to by one of your committee members tonight, that these conversations need to be had by you with the respective employees, as I described what we work through. I don't want to comment on that, but I would certainly like to see action taken by you if we have a problem now or in the future with people working together. We're all professionals. Thank you for your time.
Chuck, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you.
Any other member of the public? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. We are going to go back into exec with no further action.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.